It's 3 days after the election, and there are lots going on in the world, including some anti Semitic attacks in Amsterdam and a number of other things that are taking place as well. So we'll get to discussions about those, see what's happening in the world and what's going on around the world. And along those lines, I see that I've got my friend Rick Rosner. So as soon as I get to some of these items of the news, I'll see what he's got going on in his world. But Susie Wiles, who is Trump's new chief of staff, she was appointed and she once helped NFL broadcaster legend Pat Summerall beat alcoholism. So she's definitely got some interesting history and all along those lines, and she'll be the person running the team and all along those lines. So we'll see what goes on in that way. So she was just recently appointed, and definitely we'll see what goes on. I did watch when he made his victory speech and tried to get her to speak, and she seems like a shy leader and all along those lines. But we'll learn more about her over the several months and all along those lines. But definitely in the world, anti Semitic attacks on Israeli soccer fans bring shame on Amsterdam, is what a mayor said in that area. So, Israeli soccer fans were injured in an attack that Amsterdam authorities are calling anti Semitic. And the Judge King said, "We failed the Jewish community during World War II. Last night, we failed again." And Israel sends evacuation plans to Amsterdam after that attack on those soccer fans. And definitely, folks are wondering what the second term of Trump could bring. And some people are wondering if it could bring things like tariffs, the January 6th pardons, as well as deportations, and a number of other things that folks are waiting to see what will happen in that way and all along those lines. And it looks like the war in Ukraine is still continuing and going on and all along those lines. So we'll definitely be hearing about that. Matter of fact, later on this evening, we'll have the Russia, Ukraine, China show that Sasha Starr does and all along those lines. And the Notre Dame bells ring out in Paris for the first time since the 2019 fire. So the bells of Notre Dame have rung out for the first time in 5 years, and Notre Dame welcomes the arrival of three new bells as the cathedral reopening is nearing and all along those lines. And devastating flash floods pummel southeastern Spain. We know that one of our founders has moved into that area. So if he comes on, we'll learn more about what's going on in that space. And Germany's normally stable government has collapsed once again. So snap German elections likely are to boost stocks, according to Cities Monthly, and all along those lines. So we'll see how that goes as well. And China is trying to fix its economy, and they're saying that Trump could derail those plans. So Asia braces for disruptions to alliance and trade after the Trump victory. So tariffs, tech, and Taiwan. So they're saying that China is hoping to Trump-proof its economy. And nearly 70% of the verified Gaza war dead women and children, according to UN rights offices. So UN calls for reckoning as reports show that 70% of Gaza dead are children and women. So that's something else that'll be going on in the news as well. And folks are trying to figure out, what does President-elect Trump's win mean for the U.S. amid the war between Israel and Hamas, and of course what he'll do in the space of what's going on in Ukraine as well. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space. And three have been charged in connection with the One Direction star Liam Payne's death in Argentina. So that's definitely something that's going on there in Argentina as well. And United Nations is warily awaiting Donald Trump's return to power. So definitely we'll see what's going on. A lot of the world leaders have sent out their congratulatory messages and all in that space. And COP20 CEO filmed agreeing to facilitate fossil fuel deals at climate summit. So Azerbaijan is accused of exploiting COP29 for political gain. So we'll see what goes on in that space as well. And Ukraine clashes with North Korean troops ahead of Trump's return to the White House. So Zelensky confirms deadly clash with North Korean troops, as it looks like Putin might be saying that he's willing to have some conversations and all along those lines. So we'll see what goes on in that way as well. And new DNA evidence proves popular narratives about Pompeii victims, and all along that lines might be not the way that it was written in history. So it looks like this ancient DNA could rewrite the stories of the people buried by volcanic eruption in Pompeii. So it contradicts the long held assumptions about victims buried in that particular ash. So definitely we'll see what goes on in that. And Trump is to renew maximum pressure campaign against Iran. So an ex-envoy says Trump aims to weaken Iran, and deal of the century is likely back on the table. So Iran's booming oil flow will be under scrutiny after the victory of Trump, and all along those lines. And Austin calls former Israeli defense minister after Netanyahu's dismissal. So Netanyahu tells White House he isn't planning a wider security chief purge. So definitely looks like the Knesset has approved Katz as the defense minister. So that's where we stand in that way. And Australia plans a social media ban for children under 16. So Australia is moving to ban young teens from social media. So the Australian state has backed a national ban to plan to ban children younger than 16 from social media. So that's something that the Labor Party has put out there, and we'll see what folks have got to say about that as well. Let me get to some of the U.S. news, and then I'll bring in my fellow panelists and see what they've got to say about a number of these things as well. So definitely, like I mentioned earlier, Susie Wiles has been appointed, and all along those lines, as the Trump chief of staff. There is Hurricane Raphael that is growing stronger, but it is on a path apparently to nowhere. So hopefully it won't impact anybody. So Hurricane Raphael moves across the Gulf of Mexico as a rare major November storm while Cuba is recovering. So mountain fires are continuing in Southern Cal. Some mountain fires are pushed north after burning more than 100 homes. Smoke towers over homes as wildfire spreads near Los Angeles. So it could be hitting that Los Angeles area as well. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space. And officials are condemning the racist text messages that were sent to African American residents in several states. So that is something else that is going on as well. And we'll see what folks have got to say about that also. And a major winter storm in one of Rick's other areas, Colorado. So it looks like Denver might be getting some major snow, and 837 flights were delayed, 9 canceled at DIA amid the snow, and all along those lines. So definitely be interesting to see what goes on. And Putin says he's ready to pick up if Manly Trump calls him. So he says he's ready to pick up the phone, and Putin hails courageous Trump as Zelensky has apparently rejected the ceasefire, and all along those lines. So, and a judge has declared Biden immigration program for spouses of U.S. citizens illegal. So the judge has stricken down a Biden program shielding immigrant spouses from deportation. So we'll see what goes on in that space as well. So like I said, going to bring up some of my fellow panelists, see what they've got to say about a number of these stories and what they've got on their mind as well. So I've got Rick Rosner with me, I've got Sasha Starr, and I've got Adam Lambarella, and we'll see if anybody else joins us later on as well. But like I said, there's a number of things going on in the news, and y'all can pick up on some of those news items. I did see that there was this text that were going out, and some people are investigating because apparently authorities across the U.S. are investigating after racist text messages, some with references to slave catchers and picking cotton, had been received by children, college students, and working professionals from unrecognized phone numbers in the wake of the presidential election. And the NAACP president has warned Thursday of possible broader implications of the hate-filled rhetoric that is coming from places as far away as New York to Nevada to the District of Columbia. And apparently it involves a particular company called TextNow, and they are trying to work to deal with it as well, because they're definitely the text that I saw was very vile, to say the least, and everything, because it said something like, you've been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation starting November 7th, 2024. Please be ready at 8 p.m. sharp 8 a.m. sharp with your belongings. Our executive slave catchers pick you up in a brown van. Be prepared to be searched. Once you've entered the plantation, you are in Plantation Group 7. So that's something that people are talking about and all along those lines. But definitely it'll be interesting to see what folks have got to say about a number of these news stories, including the anti-Semitic attacks in Amsterdam.
So I've got a question for all you guys. So I'm not super worried about Trump going after his enemies, but there are people around me who are very worried. And we can remember that Trump ran for president in the first place because he was made fun of at the White House Correspondents' Dinner when Obama was president. When Obama was president, Trump was saying Obama wasn't really a U.S. citizen, saying he was secretly from Africa. And so Obama and Seth Meyers at the Correspondents' Dinner told a bunch of Trump jokes, which pissed him off. And he had threatened to run for president several times before. But this time he followed through with it. So do we have to worry about Trump going after enemies?
I don't think so. Right now, as I think Adam had said, there was even some conversations with the Department of Justice and some other legal authorities about even dropping some of the charges against Trump. I will admit that I did see a funny, and some of the people that are more on the right might not find it as funny, but a comedian was kind of taking a crap because apparently Project 2025 has put out a video saying that they would not be hiring people that have fraud and other kind of things in their background and bankruptcy. And so the young lady comedian was saying they might want to run that up the flagpole to the boss, because some of the things that they were saying that they would not accept are some of the things that Trump has been accused of and even convicted of. So they were making a little fun with that and everything. But whether that is something that he cracks back on that comedian, only time would tell. But I think there's freedom of speech, so she can get away with that. But definitely, Adam, what is your take and everything? I don't have that particular clip, but I did see it. And like I said, the facial expression, if nothing else, was kind of funny, because they were basically saying that that's some of the things that he has been either accused of or convicted of. And they even kind of played on his hairstyle as well.
Well, look, the idea that Donald Trump is going to go after his political enemies is ridiculous. If anybody has gone after their political enemies, it was the Democrats. Let's look at the conviction in Manhattan by a liberal jury and a liberal judge based on a legal theory that had never been used before in history. The only party that has gone after their political enemies has been the Democrats. And Donald Trump didn't run for the presidency because he got made fun of. He ran for the presidency because he saw that the economy and that the average lives of American people were suffering. I went to the grocery store last night. I spent $200 for groceries that'll probably last me 3 days. $7 for a stick of butter, $5 for a box of pasta. People are suffering. People aren't millionaires like Rick or Sasha or Nick. People like me are average people who struggle to make a living. And we have suffered for 4 years under this horrible administration that did not acknowledge the pain that the average person was suffering, and instead peddled theories about how Biden economics was successful and the economy was great. That disconnect is what caused them to lose. And they'll lose again in 2028 if they think that racism and sexism were the primary determinants of who won. It wasn't. It was inflation and immigration.
Hey, I'm glad that I hear what you're saying. I'm going to actually pivot just slightly, but we will come back to America. But since Shaquille is here, and I think he mentioned it before and everything, Shaquille, it looks like the Labor Party in Australia is going after social media, and they're saying that kids that are of a certain age can't get on social media. I believe it was 16, if I remember correctly, what I just reported and everything. So I was just wondering, he just disappeared. So hopefully he'll come back and all along those lines and can answer that question and everything. Oh, this might be him coming back now and all in that space. So hopefully that's him coming back and all in that kind of way. So Shaquille, what is your take? Because like I said, I just saw this when I was doing the news earlier that Australia, I think, is going to not let 16-year-olds get on social media, and it's the Labor Party, and I forget whether that's the right or the left of the parties, because I always forget how you explain that to me and everything. But they look like they're going after social media for our kids. So what is your take on that?
So the Labor Party's on the left, and the Liberal Party So when everyone has a crack at Americans for being too liberal, the Liberal Party is actually the centre-right party in Australia. Look, what the Prime Minister is talking about and the things that they're talking about protecting young people from social media and bullying and all that kind of stuff, I actually agree with them. I think most parents agree with them that young people are spending way too much time online and they should be, out and about and, playing with each other and, kicking a football around or whatever. So I do agree with them, but I don't think that it's government's role to step into that. I think that that's parents' roles and government needs to stay out of it. I do want to actually just add to what Adam said, though, about the reasons why he feels, Donald Trump and Republicans, etc. What I would say to, for example, Rick and Jatovy. Rick often talks about the trans issues and how that's not really the main part of why people are voting for Democrats. That's not their motivation. And I totally accept that. Clearly, it's not their motivation. It's just one part of what Democrats are dealing with. If people on the right, as they actually often do, talk about that issue and try to suggest that everybody who's voting for the Democrats is voting for it because of those issues, that would be completely untrue and unfair. Donald Trump had a reasonably powerful ad where he said, Kamala Harris is for they, them, Donald Trump's for you. Reasonably powerful ad, not completely true, but that was the ad. I would suggest to people on the left that when you look at people on the right or people that have voted for Donald Trump and centre-right parties around the world, don't think that the things that you disagree with is the reason they voted for those parties. They're telling you all the time that there are other reasons why they voted that way, whether it be immigration, inflation, whatever it may be, right? So when you reduce their vote down to the bits that you don't agree with and then say, how could you possibly vote for somebody who stands for all of these terrible things I don't agree with? That's not their motivation. And I can tell you as a foreigner who's traveled to the United States many, many times, you guys are not as divided as you think you are. Don't make an enemy out of each other. Please don't make an enemy out of each other.
Really quickly before I get to you, Jato, because I don't know if y'all read the Facebook post. I put it out there and asked people to comment on everything. And I will admit when I am guilty of maybe even being in the wrong myself and everything. And that's why I put the post out there. But one of my fears that I have, and I'm not saying it is correct, but if with this notion of deportation and who we're going to deport and all along those lines, there was a group of 4 youth that were at a restaurant that I stopped at and everything. Now they were stereotypical, what people might be considered gang oriented and everything. I don't know that for a fact. There was a ringleader that was them playfully fighting with each other and all along those lines. And there were certain kind of like symbolism on their shirts and everything. So they could have been gangs, they could have been Latin, they could have been Middle Eastern and everything. And I'm admitting that I was probably to some degree profiling them when I was looking at them and all along those lines. So is there any possibility that that could become a norm if people are worrying about these folks that are from other countries and everything? And I even put into Facebook, is this something that we need to be concerned about where people might be profiling folks based on stereotypes?
No. Before Jatovy talks, I'll just say Donald Trump is not going to engage in any mass deportation. He's going to deport people who have been convicted of violent crimes, and he's going to secure the border, which the Biden administration failed to do. And I go back to one point about why voters elected Trump. And I'm a first-time Trump voter. I didn't vote for him in 16 or 20. It's because when I go to the grocery store last night, I spent $200 on groceries that are going to last me 5 days, maybe 4 days. $5 for a bag of Doritos, $7 for a stick of butter, $5 for a box of pasta. And I have raised this repeatedly in the past, and everyone dismissed it. Sasha said,
I've got to reset my phone.
Well, it's about the shareholders. Hold on a second. It's about the shareholders. No. Rick said buy expired food. Well, you two have the luxury of being financially secure. Most Americans, like me, do not. And Trump tapped into that because inflation has been out of control. Immigration has burdened our social services. and people voted with their wallets, as did I, because I am sick and tired of going to the grocery store and spending twice of what I would have spent in 2016 to 2020.
Fair enough, and everything. Jacoby, you had a point you want to make to that. You're a parent and have to buy groceries as well and everything. But I'm assuming you're going to speak to that.
So, Adam, you're not the only one on this panel who is actually in that area that you're speaking about. I'm actually more in it than probably you are, due to the family and everything that I have and the expenses that I have to deal with. So we're in that same boat. We're speaking from that same area. So you're not the only one, is what I'm trying to express from there. Number two, profiling is going to happen regardless. That's just the nature of the beast. That's who we are. In our society, we profile regardless. We walk into an area and we see an individual. We, as individuals, try and gravitate to individuals that seem to have our same likes, our same looks similar to us. That's just natural. So profiling will happen. It's going to get exacerbated because of all the things that just got okayed. In terms of what Shaq spoke about earlier, saying that people look at, we don't look at people on the left saying that they're single issue voters, but vice versa, we look at individuals on the right that are single issue. That's untrue. We understand that there are other issues, that there are particular things, just as what Adam spoke about in terms of, hey, I'm talking about my wallet, I'm talking about this. The problem comes into play for individuals who did not vote for Trump and who were against Trump. And this is where the olive branch that people keep talking about, or the understanding that people keep talking about. Why did others not vote for Trump? There are many particular reasons why. For example, when you're talking about the pocketbook issues and speaking of, things are more expensive now. Well, the only individual who had an actual economic plan that was moving forward that would continue to bring down prices is the one that wasn't Trump, because his plan, looking at every economic measure, all the economists looked at it, and what he had said was going to raise prices and is going to raise prices. So the complaint that the eggs are so expensive now, so I'm going to punish this candidate because my eggs are so expensive now. So you vote for the candidate that's in the future going to make eggs even more expensive. So complaining about the economic plan and not looking towards the future is a problem. And that's where the idea that this wasn't about the economy that really moved the needle, because there were a lot of votes that were already baked in because of the reminiscing of what we came from, or saying that the prices were so low then. Well, we're not going back to that prices based on where we're voting now. So essentially, for those that voted for, we understand the reasoning behind it, and we'll understand a lot more than that.
Right. So
there has to come into play an idea that, hey, why did others not see the same thing? Because the immigration is low right now. Crime is lower than it was under Trump. So why were these things not something that these others saw that I saw? Like, Adam, why don't I see the same thing you saw? I'm looking at the same numbers.
Well, for one thing, the Democrats suck at messaging. The Democrats
yes.
But I have a question about deporting 1 million bad hombres a year. So, logistically, are we going to be able to do that?
No.
In 2023, ICE conducted 170,000 administrative arrests. So you'd have to ramp that up sixfold, and that would take a ton more people and a lot more facilities to even hold the people are tens of billions of bucks. Are we going to have the money and the organizational skills to do that?
Sorry, can you guys hear me? Because I'll have a few technical
Yes,
issues.
yes.
Okay. I'd just like to address a couple of points. Firstly, years ago, I said that Kamala Harris had been set up for failure because they had insisted that they would only take a black woman as VP, and they didn't give her the opportunity to be able to, really have an impact. Coming into this election, she can't win. She could not have won. Everything that she tried to do just didn't work. She's told that she needs to take a stronger stand in support of Israel. She does that. She gets criticized for not taking a stronger stand on Palestine. She tries to moderate her views and support Palestine, and she's criticized for supporting Palestine. She is told that she's too far left. She's the most liberal person. She needs to moderate her views and come back to the center. She comes back to the center, and she's called a hypocrite and somebody who's a flip-flopper. She says that she's against fracking in the past. Now she moderates her views and says, actually, I'm prepared to accept fracking. In fact, I signed off on a bill that said fracking was okay, and she gets criticized by both sides. And I can go on and on and on. In fact, the Daily Show did a great analysis of this. Everything that people criticized her for, if she did something different, she got criticized for that as well. She hasn't had a particularly great shot at being able to really put her stamp on what she was going to advocate for in the future and what the changes that she wanted to make would have been. So I do think that's a bit unfair on her. But as I said before, the reason why people have voted for Trump isn't because she's a woman or because she's mixed race or black. It's not because, of any of those identity politic things. It's because people prioritized other things as being more important to them, as Adam just discussed. And I think people need to recognize that. And Democrats, if they want to be able to win an election in 2028 or do something in the midterms, they're going to need to recognize what people are actually saying to them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I have a question for you guys, which is a very quick, it'll take 20 seconds. One of my cats has a medical problem that we now have to take our cat to the vet, and that's going to cost us probably several $100s. How am I supposed to afford that when I'm paying $200 for groceries last night for food that's going to last me 3 days? You guys are not in the same position. Every American,
Adam,
and that's why I voted for Trump.
Adam,
and you guys never talked about it.
Adam, let me point out, you keep saying these anecdotal things thinking that you're the only one in this position. Again,
I said most people are.
Adam, hold on. I'm sorry about your cat, but let's talk about my child who's special needs, who now Donald Trump is going to take away the Department of Education, which deals with special needs programs that my child has to go through. So therefore, I don't give a crap about your cat when my child is now going to struggle.
And that's why you lost the election.
Wait, Adam. You're telling me that your cat is more important than my child. Let's not go down this anecdotal road. Let's not go down this anecdotal road because it leads to nowhere and it's not a good discussion.
Which is what you do all the time.
I have a question. Wait, I got a question. I have a question for Adam. If you want to unmute, Adam.
I wanted to chime in real quick. I'll let you go real quick, Rick. But I wanted to say what Shaq said again. When you point out that yes, Kamala Harris had to be everything for everybody. She had to be perfect for everybody. But that is an impossibility that we place on her while Trump was able to lie.
Yeah, but that's the way it is. That's the way
it is. To speak to the issues affecting American people like me.
You guys aren't even listening to what I'm stating. There was a double standard, which was built in, which we all agree is built in. So understanding that there is a double standard that's built in and that people wanted Kamala Harris, who provided an economic plan that was catered to individuals, that was actually talking about things that we wanted to do in the future. These economic plans were already pushed out because of who she was.
Oh,
And
that
that was a problem. So to
ridiculous.
say that people did not vote for her because did not vote for her because she was a woman, or did not vote for her because she was black, that was part of the cultural issue that she had to deal with. That was already,
Yeah, but
again,
we know that.
I would vote for a black,
So what I'm
Hispanic,
saying
gay,
again is
transgender
we
person
cannot
if they
denounce
addressed inflation,
and
and they
ignore
didn't.
there were factors there.
Democrats have
and it
become the
wasn't
party of the
just,
elite. And
hey,
you don't realize
we're gonna
that.
go for the economy. Adam,
Wait.
thanks for talking over me. We're going to Rick.
All right, so we know everything you just said. We know are possible factors in why some people didn't. What Shaq says is right. What you say are right. All these are factors. What Adam says, everybody lists. I'm sure you could find millions of people who failed to vote for Harris for each of the reasons you guys have cited. So just out of personal curiosity, Adam, you're a professor. Are you adjunct? Because adjunct professors get paid like crap. Are you a full professor, or what's the deal there?
I was a tenured professor at my last job. I'm now a tenure track professor. I teach 5 classes a semester, coach the mock trial team, and I'm the pre-law advisor, and will likely get tenure next year, and I make $69,000 a year. And it is incredibly difficult in this economy over the last 3 years to afford groceries, gas, and God forbid buy a house, which is impossible. I'm practically poor. And you know what? Kamala Harris never addressed that whatsoever. She painted a rosy picture of, oh, the economy is good and Biden economics was great. Well, that didn't resonate with the average person, because the Democrats have really become the party of the elite. And those who are worth, and there's several on this panel who are millionaires, it doesn't affect you, but it affects 90% of the American population. And that's why Trump came in.
Well, hold on a second, because I'm probably, believe it or not, because I'm a journalist and I work for an art.
Toby, I'm sorry for talking.
Probably the poorest person here on the panel, because sometimes my money is very lean and everything, and I actually did vote for Kamala because I thought that she had a better economic plan. But I did have a quick question for you based on something that I read recently and everything, and it's in your age range, and maybe to some degree, well, no, it's not quite your age range, it's a little bit younger and everything, because you mentioned, and I used to have pets, I don't have pets anymore, might get pets, and I think Jacoby and others on people have pets, but the millennials, which is a very interesting group and everything along those lines, are actually thinking that they are raising pets instead of kids, because and there are people that are wondering about this because there's all these kind of pet hotels and pet things that people can do, including something that are somewhat boutique and all along those lines. So they're thinking that they are easier to deal with a pet than a kid, and they are doing this for economic reasons, as you would just say. So I just wonder, is this a trend that is going to continue? Because apparently they're not interested. The amount of kids going down, it's not just a United States thing, it's also in China, it's also in a number of other places as well. So they're saying that the amount of kids that folks are choosing to have is going down, but they're choosing.
Well, it is. In 3/4 of the country, in 20 years, 3/4 of the countries on Earth will have shrinking populations.
Right.
And yeah, it's nice. I mean, yeah, kids are nice, but it's also nice to have no kids so you have more money. There used to be a term for it, DINK, double income, no kids. A lot of DINKs were gay couples who, yeah, like, okay, you know. And
Sasha's had his hand up for a little bit.
Yeah, let's go, Sasha.
Okay, to Sasha. Definitely, Sasha, you got some thoughts on this or any of the other parts of the Trump victory and the economics? You do the modern investments, or you probably got lots of things to say about the economics.
Mark, I have a request for you. If I'm raising hand, please let me speak. Don't start your own monologue for 15 minutes.
I did not see your hand. I'm sorry.
Please
I'm doing
so.
multiple
I
things.
really appreciate it. If you
things.
will not be able to do so, you will not get me on a program. I can tell you that right away. Because it's several times in the last few days that I'm raising hand and I'm waiting for my turn, and every time somebody else talk over me or so, and finally when it's your turn, instead of, give me a chance to speak, you start your own monologue or question or something else. Please don't do that to me, Mark. I really ask you that.
Well, that's fair enough and everything, but like I said, no.
Okay, Mark, no explanations required. Okay, you heard me loud and clear. House cleaning. Adam, $200 spent on groceries in one of your variations would last you 3 days. In the other variation, 5 days. So some days you're eating, of course, a lot of more than some other days. So you have to maybe stay on 4 days. Maybe you can somehow stretch it to 4 days instead of 3.
That's not the reason. The reason is because sometimes I have to buy things like cat litter or whatnot. But my point is, even if it's 5 days, how much is that a month? Nearly $1,000 a month. For someone who's making $69,000 a year, it's ridiculous. And you guys did not acknowledge that as Democrats, and that's why the vote went against you. And I'm sick and tired of struggling like this because I work my ass off and I make nothing. And the American dream is an illusion, and nobody wanted to acknowledge that. Well, guess what? That's why Trump's in office.
Adam, as a healthy young man, you must eat much more than $1,000 a month. I would qualify as a $2,000, so you could occasionally enjoy beef bourguignon or a steak tartare or some other wonderful things. You live only once, so you have to enjoy life to its fullest. Now, I would like to ask you something. You didn't notice very important things. There is a shift in the personality cult, and I'll explain you what I mean. For example, if you are taking stock market investing, there are, for example, Donald J. Trump stock, which if you look at intrinsic value and what it stands, what is the financial statements and so on, this stock is worth 10 cents a share, maybe a little bit less or more. However, it's trading around 30, give or take, dollars per share. Why? Because it's associated straight line with Donald J. Trump. And that's not just only examples that I want to illustrate. Another one, Elon Musk. His Tesla company is now skyrocketing. It's almost $300 a share. Again, if you will look at its financials and what they're reporting or so on, it's not even near, especially the last report was quite lousy. It went down from 235 to 217 in 1 day. But because it's Elon Musk is a second figure to Donald Trump, and he's going to get some kind of a government post and so on. And it's Elon Musk is the richest man in the universe and so on. So here people are paying to own a piece of something what represents a value to them. There is no any conviction of the stock is worth so much because they're generating so much profits or so on and on. It doesn't count at all because it's a friendly to Trump stock or Trump stock itself. DJT, it commands premiums. Now, people who are not so close to Trump, Google, Meta, a few other tech companies, their stocks, they went up a little bit, but not that much, because they know how vindictive Trump is and that he can always bring them to Senate and Congress and ask, okay, Google, you are now split in 5 different companies, and you Meta close your shop for 6 months, and you have to fix everything what we'll tell you to do, or so on. So their stocks didn't go, although they all congratulated Trump is winning presidency or so on. It didn't help them much. And I'll tell you, I'm not fond. Yeah. No, Shaquille, you know what I'm talking about. But however,
well, now, I'm not responding to anything.
Just a moment, you will respond. Just the last thing, what I want to tell you. Nobody here is telling the personality of Trump versus Biden, Harris, and many others. Trump has a genuine appetite for power. He is a born leader with all his flaws and all convictions and regardless what is there, but he projects that will and people trust him. In that respect, I wouldn't blame Kamala because she did the best she could. Now the Democrats are talking about that Biden should have resigned after 2022 elections. and then so whoever, whether it's Kamala or somebody else, would have much more time to prepare to do something about it. This is all irrelevant right now. As I said many times, American people said loud and clear that's what they want. I already see some changes in foreign policy of the United States. I've already heard this before this program, the speech of Putin, where he was very clumsily explaining that he would like to call Trump, but he believes that it would be impolite because since U.S. is an enemy of Russia, so he expects Donald Trump phone him first, and but then how he can phone first when Putin has to phone to congratulate him? And if he's not going to do that, then obviously Donald Trump is not going to go call Putin. So anyway, this horseshit back and forth. It doesn't really matter.
I'd like to just come back at you, Sasha, on a couple of points there. Mostly what you talked about with the share prices. Almost all shares trade at a premium to their intrinsic value and their price to earnings, and much of that's based on goodwill, based on expectations of future value. So I think that was a little disingenuous of you, to be fair, with the greatest respect to you. For those of you that are saying that Adam, should live his life differently, the issue at hand, if I'm understanding Adam correctly, the issue at hand is that many people, like Adam in his income bracket, are now required to live their life differently because the same income that they used to have doesn't carry them as far as it used to. And to Toby and Rick's point before, especially about Kamala Harris and the double standard, I personally think that Donald Trump's economic plans were better than Kamala Harris's. But leave that aside, because obviously, I'm more into economics than the everyday person. I don't believe that those are the reasons why people didn't vote for her. I believe that people didn't have faith in her, and they didn't have belief in her in being able to produce the economic results that she was talking about. People clearly didn't think that she was actually going to be able to help the middle class. And that's one of the reasons why, from the economics point of view, people voted against her. And not recognizing that by simply saying her plan was amazing ignores the fact that there were many reasons why people didn't believe that she'd be able to do what she was suggesting.
Just
So
really quick,
what Sasha said is true, because again, if we go back historically speaking, Trump stock will jump, Elon stock will jump, everything around that will jump. The Bitcoin that the Trump family put out will jump. Why? Because historically speaking, Trump is a transactional individual. The other world leaders and so on and so forth, to curry favor with Trump, found that out and stayed at his hotels and all this other stuff. He made money off of it. So to curry favor with Trump now, because it's less regulated, they will advertise and market on Truth Social. They will do these things because that is what they know of the individual that got put in office. And in terms of the trust factor and so on and so forth, I think it was Sasha again who pointed out that, hey, the notion is that had Biden actually dropped out a lot earlier, or actually announced that he had retired after he got into office, that would have given anybody a lot more time, especially someone like Kamala Harris. So therefore, it wasn't that the economic reasons or this and that and the other thing. It was she had to be everywhere, everything for everybody at one time within that 100 days, which was unfair to her.
A quick moment. If you remember primaries of 2019, Biden was many times announcing that he is one term president. He said it many, many times, and nothing could prevent him from follow through on that because of his age, because of the degree and his faculties, and so on.
Completely agree, Sasha. So had he stuck to that one term, and had there been an ability for Kamala Harris to have, heck, 200 days to actually speak out about who she was, what her plan was, put together the whole convention, and then keep on marketing herself, we could have had a different outcome, because when they did the polling of the actual plans that they both had, and they didn't put the names beside it, Kamala Harris's plans went out in those polls. People wanted Kamala Harris's plans. Economically, they wanted her plans, and it didn't have to deal with a trust factor. Again, it dealt with a baked-in factor and what she was, because a lot of individuals still thought, hey, regardless of Trump lying to me, I'm going to vote for him. Regardless of what he is, I'm going to vote for him because he is male. There were a lot of people that went on TV that even said that.
You're again
Stop, Shaq. I didn't interrupt you. Please do not interrupt me, Shaq.
Right,
Please
so
don't interrupt.
we've already gone over all this stuff.
So what I'm stating is that what Sasha just pointed out is true, and I just wanted to reiterate what Sasha said. We cannot overlook. And also, can we stop playing this Adam in this bracket? I'm in the same bracket, and I voted for the person who had a better economic plan. So let's stop with this anecdotal. Well, Adam is our example. Adam is not the example.
Oh, yes, I am the example.
I'm an example too, Adam.
Somebody in the
That's
comments.
very condescending.
I'm an example too, Adam.
I'm not.
All right,
I'm an
hold on.
example too.
Instead of going over old stuff, there's a new good question from Jack Donovan. Why hasn't anyone established a memorial for all the lives lost during COVID? That's a good question, because COVID killed more Americans than all of our battle deaths combined. And we have plenty of memorials to the war dead. COVID killed.
Well, not just.
Why don't they establish memorials for people who died of AIDS?
Okay,
Hang on.
That's a good question.
Not
too.
just Americans. Not just Americans. They killed COVID killed people all over the world. And again, I just want to say to Jack Donovan, because I'm not sure if you would have heard me last time. Thank you for correcting one of the things that I said, because I got that wrong about the states voting. So thank you for that, because I'm not a guru. Sometimes I make mistakes, so I appreciate that. I just want to come back to a couple of things. The reason we're using Adam as an example is because he says he voted for Trump. That's why we're using him as an example.
So you're not
Secondly,
using me as an example for voting
because you didn't vote for Trump. That's why we're using him as an example, as for reasons why people voted for Trump. As for what you've said, Jatovi, you are again imputing reasons that aren't actually what the voters have said. You're saying things like, oh, well, the voters are saying, well, I don't care that he lied, I'm going to vote for him anyway. That's not what voters are saying. There's no voters who are out there going, yeah, he's a liar, he's a sexist, he's a convicted felon, and I love that, so I'm going to vote for him. But because you have that view of him, well, that's what you imply. Because you have that view of him, let me finish, please. You can respond, no problems, let me finish. Because you have that view of him, you and a lot of people like you act as though people voted for him and said, oh, here's all these terrible things, he's got all these character flaws, his economic plans are terrible, but I'm going to vote for him anyway. That's not what people are saying. People are saying, I believe what he's doing. People are saying, I think he's been mistreated by media. I think the Department of Justice was weaponized against him. That's what people are saying. Now, you might not agree with them, but that's how they feel, and they're telling you that.
But Shaq, again, you misrepresented everything that I said. I never said they voted.
Hold on a second, everybody.
Hold on. Sorry, Rick, Mark. When I feel as though I've been misrepresented by Jatovi, I always ask to be able to clarify. Jatovi feels that I've misrepresented what he said. Please allow him to actually clarify, because he clearly wants to. Let's be fair.
Okay. I never stated that they voted for him because of these bad things. Never said that. I pointed out exactly, yes, because they felt, they ignored those. Those were not the factors that determined their vote at all. They did overlook those. But the thing is, those are factors that people voted against. So it is fair in both ways that, hey, I am not one who's in agreement with somebody. I cannot vote for somebody who gets convicted or found liable of rape. I can't do that. But for others, they were able to overlook that. So me saying that, hey, they overlooked that doesn't mean that they voted for him because of that. I've never said that. Nobody's ever said that. But the problem comes into play when you misrepresent and misunderstand that I'm just saying this is a reason why I can't vote for him. That's a reason why you completely overlooked that reason. That wasn't a reason against it. Adam says that his was pocketbook issues because eggs are double this time. But Adam, Nikki Haley said the same thing, but you weren't for Nikki Haley. You went for Trump. You went for these policies. You could have written it. You could have gone for Nikki Haley, any of the other ones who hadn't. But again, those individuals that voted past that, hey, he was convicted of rape. He was found 34 felony counts. He's had all this checkered past. You overlook these things. That wasn't important.
I'm just to be clear.
Jack.
I just want to very quickly say so, please, Rick. Okay. Please, I just want to very quick. I'll be very, very quick. I wasn't suggesting that you were saying that was the motivation for why people are voting for him, but you're saying that they overlooked it. I don't think people overlooked it. I think that people don't believe and don't accept the allegations about him.
Now
maybe you think they're misguided, and I totally respect where you're coming from, and I understand the criticisms that you guys have of him, but I think that people are looking at it completely different to the way you are. I'll be quiet.
Jack, we have been on this show talking about how Americans are suffering because of high inflation, gas prices, inaffordability of homes, and you ask if there's going to be a COVID memorial? You must be a Democrat because it shows that you are not Excuse me. You are not obviously tuned into the issues affecting the American people. And I'm sorry, but a COVID memorial, really?
No, a viewer wrote in and asked, and I was asking on their behalf, and I'm tired of all the freaking.
Rick, he said Jack. He said Jack. He addressed it to. Jack. One of them he was directing it at him.
I like us fielding new questions because all the TV shows we're doing.
He wasn't having a crack at you, Rick. He was responding directly to the viewer.
You get an answer.
But Adam didn't direct this at you, Rick. He directed it straight to the viewer.
Hold on a second. He directed it in reverse. Hold on a second.
Hold on. From the audience. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about himself.
I have a question for Shaq. So our kid is in London, and this Trump election prompted my wife to do more research as to how much time we could actually spend with her in London. And it turns out England is cracking down on not just immigration, but travel to England. Now, you travel the world a lot. Are you having trouble with immigration law and travel regulations, or is it not that tough? Is it changing?
So I'm not having any issues because I have two Western passports, right? I've got a British passport because I'm a British citizen. I have an Australian passport because I'm an Australian citizen. I have a couple of other things, but they're official things I'm not going to go into. So I'm not having those issues. You guys as Americans are not going to experience those sort of issues in most countries. However, yes, there are issues that are coming up. There are also issues with immigration. So I know that my extended family that is still in Fiji, my opinion is that they should all be granted British citizenship or Indian citizenship, and neither country wants to deal with the issues. So I want to just address a couple of things, which is a little bit off what you asked, but kind of related. Many of the points that liberals or centre-left parties bring up are completely valid, completely reasonable, and I believe that people who are centre-right, not far-right, that are centre-right, can actually understand and think is reasonable. Healthcare, education, a livable wage, all of those sorts of things. Those are important. However, I think that we've reached a point in Western society where the centre-left parties are refusing to acknowledge anything that is coming from the centre-right. And if you can't deal with the centre-right, it's much harder to deal with people that are further to the right. And as a result, When the people who are centre right won't acknowledge anything from the centre left, they run the risk of pushing people further to the left. When the people that are centre left don't acknowledge what the people on the centre right are saying, they run the risk of pushing people further to the right. And
But you
I'm a
kill-
classic example of that. I
But you
think
kill-
that I'm a very, very, please let me finish. I think that I'm a very, very liberal person. Okay. If you look at the actual positions that I have, not what's being represented here, but what I actually think and feel about all the issues, trans, gay rights, marriage rights, abortion rights, etc. When you actually hear what I say, it should sound like I'm centre left. But because I have become so frustrated, I've moved much further to the right than what is naturally something that I would do.
So
But you
just
kill-
quickly, can I
Hold on a second,
respond to that?
hold on a
Let
second,
me
Rick.
let me
That's
say a
barely
thing
spoken.
really quick. Let me say a thing really quick, which is like CNN for a year or two at least has been trying to reach out to center right. They do a bad job at it, but they're trying. But there are forces. Well, Russian propaganda wants people to not reach out. They're always there agitating for separation and getting people pissed off at each other. So we have to overcome that. I don't know how big a force it is, but it is a force.
I actually don't agree with you about CNN. I think CNN has actually done a very good job of moving to the centre. I think they're trying very hard. We've been able to see a lot of changes in them, and I think that CNN is becoming a great news source once again, right? But let me just come back to your question about travel specifically. If I personally wanted to move to the United States, or I wanted to get a business visa or something like that, it'd be very fast. I'm talking like a handful of weeks, it'd be done, okay? But it would be done as quickly as that, not because of my money, not because of things that I could offer to the United States by creating jobs, etc. The main reason why it'd be done so quickly is because I'm coming from a similar Western country and an ally of the United States. What my concern is with immigration, whether it be into your country or mine, my concern is that we are trying to do the right thing by people who are coming from terrible situations and conditions, but we're neglecting trying to bring people in who are coming from wealthier countries who can actually build trade and etc. And we're making it harder for those people. And for the entrepreneurs that are coming from poorer countries, they're not likely to cross the border and to try to break the law in order to get there, and they're being pushed back. So the immigration system's broken. I'm not going to blame Democrats for it, or Republicans, or Liberal or Labor parties in my own countries. I'm not going to blame them for it. But the fact of the matter is, taxes, healthcare, education, etc., all of these things are broken, and they need to be fixed. And in order for them to be fixed, it requires people from both sides of the political aisle to actually have reasonable conversations, and even where they disagree, take the time to understand where the other person's coming from, and then try to negotiate something that works. The politicians try to negotiate something that they can get past, and what ends up happening is that the people don't get anything that they like. It's a problem, and it's weakening us in the West.
So
Just
we
really
can
quickly,
completely
so-
agree. No party has the answers to everything. The problem is, and this is the problem is that we put an individual in there who only wants to listen to himself and those who pay him money, and that's the problem there, because the individual who tried to build a coalition of everybody, we didn't vote that individual in. And
in your view, Jato, not in other people's.
we only got a minute. Don't interrupt, please. So, and then what Jack actually put out there, yes, there should be a memorial. We lost millions of people. There should be a memorial. But the problem is it became a political football. If you look at what happened with Abbey Gate, the individuals that died at Abbey Gate, there were more people who died under Donald Trump in Afghanistan than at Abbey Gate. But we don't even talk about those individuals that died up under Donald Trump in Afghanistan. What Jack said, I think, is something that we should focus on, is who cares why Trump won anymore? We shouldn't care, because he's there now. What happens now is the question that we've got to look for in the future. And there are things that I think, Adam, you and I completely disagree on where the world is going to go now because of the policies that he said. And you said that you didn't listen to what he said. So I'm hoping that I'm wrong in my view of what I see forward. And I'm hoping that you are right, that it will be better. But for me,
an AIDS memorial and a COVID. I mean, there have been the AIDS quilt.
Yes,
is a bit, but like a COVID memorial is something doable because it wouldn't cost that much. You get
my father died of the coronavirus. I was the last person to see him. He died a horrific death. I guarantee you, he would not want a memorial.
Right.
He would want his son to be able to afford grocery prices and buy a fucking house.
Sure, but
you guys are crazy.
Okay. My American friends, let me say something to you. Let me say something to you as a foreigner.
We're saddened by that.
Jatobi, please.
The only voice that is there. There are others.
Jatobi, please let me just say something very quickly
as well. So really, that becomes a thing. So we cannot just say, "Hey, my father, this." It's
all right. Let Shaq say a thing.
Please let me just say very quickly to all three of you, my American friends. Mostly, I'm directing this to you, Jatobi, but also to Rick. We have our arguments. We disagree on so many things. Jatobi, you didn't get the result that you wanted in this election. Please do not be too disheartened. When you bring up issues that affect you, when you bring up issues that affect your family, what you're afraid of, your concerns, it doesn't fall on deaf ears. The people that voted a different way to you, they do hear what you're saying. They recognize what you're saying. Please have faith in your fellow American, because they're not mean-spirited and they will listen to you, and maybe they won't respond the way that you want, but please don't be disheartened, because I can tell you, me as a foreigner coming to America, Americans are some of the nicest, friendliest, and most caring people in any country I've ever been to. Please do not get disheartened, my friend.
Right. Thank you. So, Adam, fixing inflation. So, fixing your grocery bill would take like massive legislation and a ton of money. I don't know how you do it, but I know that we could put up a memorial for 60 grand. You buy the land, you buy the bronze, you pay the artist, you pay the foundry. So at least that thing is small and doable. It doesn't solve anything, but at least you got a memorial.
These people didn't fight in a war. These people die of an illness like people die of the flu. They die of influenza. They die of cancer. We want to put memorials up for everyone? I don't know.
Adam,
really quick, we've got to wrap up because there was a memorial for AIDS. There have been memorials for AIDS. There have been memorials for others. I'm not one that's going to buy this whole notion of the Democrats as a party of the elite, but we can debate about that later as well, because I'm actually going to see Reverend Barber later today. A lot of what he does is around the war on poverty. So, like I said, I'm not buying totally that argument, but we can debate that later. But right now, it's time to end the show.